The Nevada sun beat down on Camp Desert Ridge like a hammer on an anvil. Staff Sergeant Maya Chen stood at attention in the briefing room, her uniform crisp despite the 100-degree heat outside. She'd been a Marine sniper for 8 years, with 3 tours overseas and a drawer full of commendations she never talked about. But none of that seemed to matter right now. Commander Jack Brennan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed over his broad chest. The Navy SEAL had the kind of swagger that came from 20 years of men listening to everything he said. His team of operators sat around the conference table, some smirking, others just looking bored. "Let me get this straight," Brennan said, his voice dripping with condescension. "The Marines sent us a 5'0" woman to handle our drone problem." Maya kept her face neutral, though her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. She'd heard it all before: too small, too quiet, too female. She'd learned long ago that words were just noise, results were what mattered. "Staff Sergeant Chen has the highest precision rating in her battalion," said Colonel Martinez, the Marine liaison officer who'd recommended her for this assignment. "She's taken shots that—" "I've read her file," Brennan interrupted, waving his hand dismissively. "Looks good on paper, but paper targets don't move at 60 miles per hour in 3 dimensions, and they sure as hell don't fly." The problem was simple but dangerous. A hostile group had been using commercial drones to surveil the Joint Operations Base, gathering intelligence on troop movements and security protocols. Standard countermeasures weren't working. The drones were too fast, too unpredictable, and they only appeared at night. Someone had suggested bringing in a precision shooter to take them down the old-fashioned way. That someone hadn't been Commander Brennan. "With all due respect, sir," Maya said, her voice calm and measured, "I'm here to do a job. Whether you think I can do it or not doesn't change the mission." One of the SEALs, a thick-necked guy with a blonde crew cut, laughed out loud. "Listen to her, got some fire in her belly." Brennan stood up, walking around the table until he was standing directly in front of Maya. He was a full foot taller, using his size to intimidate. It was an old tactic, and it had probably worked on a lot of people. Maya looked straight ahead, not at him but through him. "You know what the problem is, Sergeant?" Brennan said quietly, so only she and the people nearest could hear. "This isn't some Taliban fighter standing still at 800 yards. These drones move in patterns we can't predict. They're silent until they're right on top of us, and we need them taken down at night in complete darkness while they're moving." He paused, letting that sink in. "No one can make that shot," he said flatly. "Not consistently, not when it matters, and definitely not." He gestured vaguely at her, leaving the rest unsaid. Maya met his eyes then. They were hard, cold, certain. He'd already made up his mind about her, probably the moment he saw her file foe. "Then I guess we'll find out tonight, sir," she said. Colonel Martinez cleared his throat. "The staff sergeant will have access to our range for zeroing her weapon and familiarizing herself with the conditions. Commander, your team will provide overwatch and security." "Sure thing," Brennan said, his tone making it clear he thought this was a waste of everyone's time. "We'll be there to watch the show." The meeting broke up, and Maya gathered her gear. She could feel eyes on her as she left the room, hear the whispered comments that were meant to be just loud enough for her to catch. $20 says she can't even see the thing. This is what happens when politicians make military decisions. Affirmative action in action, boys. Maya's friend and spotter, Corporal David Torres, met her outside. He'd worked with her for 3 years and had seen her make impossible shots more times than he could count. His loyalty was absolute, but even he looked concerned. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," Maya said, slinging her rifle case over her shoulder. "Just another day proving I belong here. That Brennan guy is a real piece of work." "He's entitled to his opinion," Maya said, "until I prove him wrong." They walked across the dusty compound toward the armory. The base was a joint training facility where different branches worked together on specialized operations. It should have been a place where skills mattered more than service rivalries or gender. But Maya had learned that should be and is were often very different things. She'd grown up in a small town in Oregon, the daughter of a Chinese immigrant father and an Irish-American mother. Her dad had run a hardware store, working 12-hour days to give his family a better life. He'd taught Maya about precision, patience, and the importance of doing something right the first time. "Measure twice, cut once," he used to say. That philosophy had served her well in shooting. Every shot was the result of 100 small calculations: wind, distance, temperature, the target's movement. There was no room for error, no second chances. Her mother had been a nurse, tough as nails and twice as sharp. She'd taught Maya that people would always underestimate you if you were different. So be undeniable, she'd said. Be so good they can't ignore you. Maya had carried those lessons through high school, where she'd joined the rifle team and discovered she had a gift. Through boot camp, where drill instructors had tried to break her. Through sniper school, where she'd outshot men who'd been hunting since childhood. Through combat, where she'd saved lives and taken them when necessary. And she'd carry them through tonight. At the range, Maya began her preparations with Tor's help. She checked her weapon, a customized M40 rifle she'd used for years. Every part of it was familiar, an extension of her own body. She ran through breathing exercises, settling her mind into the calm, focused state she needed. As the sun began to set, painting the desert sky in shades of orange and purple, she thought about the men in that briefing room. Some of them probably were good soldiers, professionals who'd earned their reputations. But they'd looked at her and seen only what she wasn't. Not tall, not male, not one of them. They hadn't seen the truth. They hadn't seen the thousands of hours she'd spent on ranges in rain and snow and desert heat. The missions where she'd provided overwatch for teams just like theirs, keeping them safe from threats they never even knew existed. The enemy fighters who'd learned too late that the quiet woman in the shadows was the most dangerous person on the battlefield. Tonight she'd show them. The desert night came quickly, the temperature dropping 30 degrees in what felt like minutes. Maya stood on the observation platform they'd constructed, a raised position that gave her a clear view of the sky over the base perimeter. Her rifle was mounted on a specialized tripod, and Tors sat beside her with night vision equipment and a laser rangefinder. Commander Brennan and 3 of his SEALs had positioned themselves about 20 yards away, close enough to watch but far enough to make their skepticism clear. They had their own night vision gear and were supposedly there to provide security. Really, they were there to witness her failure. "Comms check," Tors said quietly into his radio. "Copy," came the response from the base operations center. "We've got the radar tracking system active. If anything shows up, you'll know it." Maya settled into her shooting position, feeling the familiar weight of the rifle against her shoulder. The stock was worn smooth from years of use, fitted perfectly to her body. She'd made shots in Afghanistan that other snipers said were impossible, through sandstorms, at extreme distances under enemy fire. But she'd never shot at a flying drone at night. There was always a first time. "You comfortable?" Brennan called over, his voice carrying easily in the quiet desert air. "Need a cushion? Maybe some hot cocoa?" His men chuckled. Maya didn't respond. She was already slipping into what she thought of as the zone, that mental state where everything else faded away and only the shot mattered. An hour passed, then another. The night grew colder and the stars came out in force, brilliant against the black sky. In the city, you forgot how many stars there were. Out here, they reminded you how small you were, how vast the universe was. Maya had always found that comforting somehow. When you understood how small you were, your problems seemed smaller too. The insults, the doubt, the constant need to prove herself, all of it was just noise against the infinite quiet of the cosmos. "Anything?" Tors asked softly. "Not yet." At the 2-hour mark, one of the SEALs spoke up. "Hey, Commander, how long we gonna sit out here watching nothing happen?" "As long as it takes," Brennan replied. "Though I'm starting to think our intel was wrong, or maybe the bad guys got smart and packed up shop. Or maybe they're waiting for us to let our guard down," Maya said, not taking her eye from the scope. "That's some optimism, Sergeant. I admire that." Another 30 minutes crawled by. Maya's body was completely still, but her mind was active, running through scenarios, calculating angles and lead times. If the drone came from the north, she'd need to account for the prevailing wind. From the east, she'd have the lights of the base affecting her night vision. From anywhere, she'd need to track a target moving at speeds a human eye wasn't designed to follow. Then Tors stiffened. "We got something. Radar's picking up a small object incoming from the northwest. Speed approximately 55 miles per hour, altitude 200 feet. "I see it," Maya said. Through her scope, enhanced with night vision, she could just make out a small, dark shape against the stars. It was moving fast, darting and weaving in an irregular pattern. "There's your target," Brennan said. If you can even get a beat on it. Maya's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The world narrowed to the crosshairs and the moving target. The drone was perhaps 800 yards out now, closing fast. It would pass over the base in less than a minute. She tracked it, letting her muscle memory and instinct guide the rifle. The drone juked left, and she followed. It climbed 50 feet, and she adjusted. It was like trying to shoot a bat in flight, except bats didn't carry cameras that could compromise military operations. 700 yards, Torres said calmly, reading the range. Wind 3 miles per hour east to west. Maya made micro-adjustments. The drone was in a gentle turn now, beginning to circle the base. In a few seconds, it would be at its closest approach, about 500 yards out. She exhaled slowly, letting half her breath out, then holding the rest. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger. The rifle was an extension of her will, and her will was absolutely focused. The drone completed its turn and leveled out. Maya fired. The shot cracked across the desert like a whip, the muzzle flashed bright in the darkness. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the drone simply stopped flying. It tumbled from the sky, spinning end over end, and crashed into the sand about 400 yards from the base perimeter. Silence. Torres whooped. Clean hit, holy, you actually hit it. Maya didn't celebrate. She was already scanning for more targets, her training taking over. One drone could be a distraction. There could be others. Behind her, she heard Brennan's voice, quieter now. Lucky shot. She did react to that. Still watching through her scope, she said, "Yes, sir, very lucky. Let's hope my luck holds." They waited another 15 minutes. No more drones appeared. Finally, the operations center called it, and a recovery team was dispatched to retrieve what was left of the drone. Maya saved her weapon and stood, stretching muscles that had been locked in position for hours. Her back ached, and her legs tingled with pins and needles. Torres clapped her on the shoulder, grinning. "That was incredible," he said. "It was one shot," Maya replied. "We'll see if it matters." Commander Brennan approached, his face unreadable in the darkness. His men hung back, their earlier cockiness notably absent. "You got lucky tonight, Sergeant," Brennan said. "That drone flew straight for about 3 seconds and you happened to squeeze the trigger at the right moment. Don't let it go to your head." Maya met his gaze. "Understood, sir. I'll try to be that lucky again if we need to be." "I'm sure you will," Brennan said, his tone making it clear he meant the opposite. As he walked away, Torres muttered, "That guy wouldn't give you credit if you shot down Air Force One." "Doesn't matter," Maya said, though it did matter, more than she wanted to admit. She'd made the shot. She'd done exactly what they said couldn't be done, and it still wasn't enough. Back at her quarters, a small room in the temporary barracks, Maya lay on her bunk and stared at the ceiling. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her exhausted but unable to sleep. Her phone buzzed. A text from her younger brother, Michael, who was in college back in Oregon. "How's the desert? Still being awesome?" She smiled despite herself. Michael was the only person who never doubted her, never questioned whether she belonged. He just assumed she was the best at whatever she did because she always had been. "Desert's hot, I'm fine, study hard." She set the phone aside and closed her eyes. Tomorrow there would be another mission brief, another chance for Brennan to undermine her. But tonight, for just a moment, she let herself feel satisfied. She'd made the shot. That was what mattered. The drone had been destroyed. The base was safer. And she'd proven, at least to herself, that she belonged here. Maya woke to hammering on her door at 0500 hours. She was up and dressed in under 2 minutes, her military training making it automatic. Colonel Martinez stood in the hallway, looking grim. "Briefing room, now." Something had happened. Maya could read it in the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. She followed him across the still dark compound, the morning air surprisingly cold. The briefing room was crowded. Brennan was there with his full team of 8 SEALs. Several Marine officers she hadn't met. 2 men in civilian clothes who had intelligence written all over them. And a 1-star general she recognized from news reports, General Sarah Hastings, who commanded all special operations in the southwestern region. Everyone stood as the general entered. She waved them to their seats and got straight to business. "At 0200 hours, 3 more drones penetrated our airspace," General Hastings said. "They weren't just surveilling. They were mapping our defenses with sophisticated scanning equipment. We recovered the drone Staff Sergeant Chen shot down last night, and the intel boys have been going through it. What they found is concerning. One of the civilian analysts stepped forward. The drone was Chinese-made, but it had been extensively modified. The camera system was military-grade. Based on the data we pulled from its memory, it had been collecting information on this base for at least 2 weeks. Guard rotations, vehicle movements, blind spots in our security. Someone is planning something, General Hastings said. We don't know what or when, but this level of reconnaissance suggests a serious threat. Commander Brennan, I understand you have reservations about our current countermeasure strategy. Brennan stood. General, with respect, we got lucky last night. 1 shot, 1 kill, it was impressive, sure. But what happens when 3 drones come at once, or 5? Staff Sergeant Chen is a skilled shooter, but she's 1 person with 1 rifle. We need a more robust solution. Jamming equipment, possibly a mobile anti-air system. Those solutions take time we may not have, the general replied. And the jamming equipment we tested last month was ineffective against these particular drones. They're frequency hopping in a pattern we can't predict. Then we need more shooters, Brennan said. My team includes several expert marksmen. We could set up multiple positions, create a perimeter of fire. Maya spoke up, her voice calm. With respect, Commander, dividing your team to play anti-air defense takes them away from their primary mission. And shooting at fast-moving targets at night requires specialized training that most soldiers don't have, regardless of their skill level. Brennan's jaw tightened. Are you suggesting my SEALs aren't capable? I'm suggesting they're trained for different missions, just like I'm not trained to clear buildings or conduct underwater operations. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Everyone has their specialty. Staff Sergeant Chen's specialty is exactly what we need right now, General Hastings said firmly. Commander, I appreciate your team's capabilities, but the sergeant has demonstrated she can neutralize these threats. I'm authorizing her to continue this mission, with your team providing support and security. The general looked at Maya. Can you do this, Sergeant? 3, 4, maybe more drones at once. Maya thought about it honestly. Multiple fast-moving targets in darkness. She'd need to prioritize, work faster than she ever had. It would push her to her absolute limit. I can try, ma'am, she said. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement, Brennan muttered. It's honest, Commander, the general said sharply. Which I value more than false confidence. Sergeant, you'll have whatever you need. Additional ammunition, better equipment, whatever gives you the best chance of success. The briefing continued with technical details and threat assessments. Maya learned that intelligence suggested a possible ground attack coordinated with the drone surveillance. The base was going to elevated alert status. All leave was canceled. Security patrols were doubled. When they were dismissed, Brennan caught up with Maya in the hallway. His team had gone ahead, leaving them alone for a moment. You know this is going to fail, right? He said quietly. Not because you're not good, you are, but because what they're asking is impossible, and when it goes wrong, it's going to be your name on the report, not mine. Maya stopped walking and turned to face him. Why do you care, Commander? You've made it clear you don't think I can do this. I care because soldiers die when missions fail, Brennan said. His voice was hard, but there was something else underneath it now. Something almost like concern. I've been in this business a long time, Sergeant. I've seen good people put in bad situations because someone up the chain wanted to prove a point, make a statement, show how progressive we are. You think I'm here as a statement? Maya felt her anger rising but kept her voice level. I think you're here because some colonel wanted to show that women can do anything men can do, which is fine when it's true, but this, he shook his head. This isn't about gender, this is about physics, about human limitations. No one can consistently hit multiple small, fast-moving targets at night. No one. Then I guess we'll both find out if I'm no one, Maya said. She walked away before he could respond. Tors found her on the range an hour later, running through practice drills. She'd set up a system with clay pigeons launched at irregular intervals, trying to simulate the challenge of multiple targets. You okay? He asked. Why does everyone keep asking me that? Because you're about to attempt something that might actually be impossible, and half the base thinks you're going to fail. Maya loaded another round. What do you think? Tors was quiet for a moment. I think I've seen you do impossible things before, but I also think Brennan has a point. This is different than anything you've done. I know, she fired, and a clay pigeon exploded in the distance. But someone has to try. If not me, then who? Brennan's SEALs? They're good at what they do, but this isn't what they do. I'm the best chance we have, Tors. I don't like it any more than they do, but it's the truth. Just don't get yourself killed trying to prove something. I'm not trying to prove anything, Maya said, but even as she said it, she knew it wasn't entirely true. She was trying to prove something, to Brennan, to the doubters, maybe even to herself. She was trying to prove that being underestimated didn't mean you were actually less capable. That being different didn't mean being inferior. They practiced for hours. By noon, Maya's shoulder was bruised from the rifle's recoil, and her eyes burned from staring through the scope. But her accuracy had improved. She was getting faster at acquiring targets, smoother at transitioning between them. It still might not be enough. That night, she sat in the mess hall, eating alone. Other soldiers gave her space, some out of respect, others because they didn't know what to say to the woman who'd been given an impossible task. She was halfway through a tasteless plate of meatloaf when someone sat down across from her. It was Lieutenant Casey Mitchell, one of Brennan's SEALs, the one who'd made the crack about affirmative action in the first briefing. "Sergeant Chen," he said. She looked up warily. "Lieutenant." "I wanted to apologize," he said, the words coming out stiffly like they didn't fit in his mouth properly. "For what I said the other day about. You know, it was unprofessional." Maya studied him. He looked uncomfortable but sincere. "Why the change of heart?" "Because you made that shot," Mitchell said simply. "I've been shooting my whole life, Sergeant. Grew up hunting in Montana, been a SEAL for 6 years, and I don't think I could have made that shot. Hell, I know I couldn't have." He paused. "I guess I had some assumptions that turned out to be wrong." "Apology accepted," Maya said. Mitchell nodded and stood to leave. Then he hesitated. "For what it's worth, my money's on you tonight. Give 'em hell." As he walked away, Maya felt something shift inside her. It wasn't about proving herself to men like Brennan anymore. It was about protecting this base and everyone on it. Mitchell had reminded her of that. They were all on the same team, whether everyone acted like it or not. Tonight, she'd do her job, not for recognition or respect, but because it needed to be done. And she was the one who could do it. The night came too quickly. Maya was back on the observation platform by 2000 hours, her rifle ready, her mind focused. Tors sat beside her, and this time, Commander Brennan's entire SEAL team had positioned themselves in a loose perimeter around the platform. They all carried weapons, ready to provide supporting fire if needed. Brennan himself stood nearby, his night vision goggles pushed up on his forehead. "Radar shows clear skis so far," he said. His tone was neutral now, the earlier mockery gone. "But Intel thinks they'll come, probably around 2200 based on their previous patterns." "I'll be ready," Maya said. The waiting was always the hardest part. Maya had learned that in combat, the hours of stillness before the chaos. Your mind played tricks on you, imagining threats that weren't there, doubting preparations you'd made a dozen times. She forced herself to breathe steadily to stay calm. She visualized the shots she'd need to make, running through the sequence again and again. Target 1, adjust, fire. Acquire target 2, lead, fire. Move to target 3, trust your training, trust your instinct. At 21:45, Tors tensed. "Got something. Multiple contacts. Radars showing 3 objects incoming from different directions, northwest, northeast, and directly north." "I see them," Maya said. Through her scope, she could make out 3 small shapes moving against the starlit sky. They were coordinated but not flying in formation, smart. They'd learned from losing the first drone and were making themselves harder to predict. "Range to nearest target, 600 yards, Tors said. "Speed varying between 45 and 60 miles per hour." Maya picked the closest one, the northeast target. It was weaving, but there was a pattern to its movement. Everything had a pattern if you watched long enough. She tracked it, feeling the rhythm. Left, up, right, down, left, up. She fired. The drone sparked and fell. "Target 1 down," Tors called. But Maya was already moving to the second target, the one coming from the northwest. It was further out, maybe 700 yards, and it had changed its approach angle, climbing higher. She adjusted, leading it, breathing out. "Fire." Another hit. The drone spun wildly and crashed somewhere in the desert darkness. "2 down," Tors' voice was excited now. "Third target directly north, 500 yards and closing fast." Maya swung the rifle, searching for the third drone. There, no, that was a bird. There, no, just a dark patch of sky. Where was it? 400 yards, Tors said urgently. I'm losing it on radar. It's dropping low, trying to use the terrain. Maya scanned desperately. The drone was using a low approach, hugging the ground where it would be harder to see, harder to hit. Smart. They were learning fast. Then she spotted it, a dark shape skimming along just above a ridge line, maybe 200 yards out now and moving fast. At this range and speed, she had seconds. One shot. She didn't think. There was no time to think. She let instinct take over, her body moving on its own, tracking, leading, feeling where the target would be. Fire! The drone exploded in a shower of sparks. For a moment there was absolute silence. Then Tors was shaking her shoulder, laughing. 3 for 3, Maya, that was unbelievable. Around the platform, the SEALs were reacting too. Someone was clapping. Someone else was saying, "Holy shit," over and over. Even Brennan looked shocked, his mouth slightly open. Maya saved her weapon, her hands trembling now with adrenaline. She'd done it. 3 drones, 3 shots, all in under 45 seconds. But she didn't have time to celebrate. Tors, anything else on radar? Negative, skies clear. Stay alert, could be more. They waited another hour, tension gradually easing as no more threats appeared. Finally, General Hastings's voice came over the radio. Outstanding work, Staff Sergeant. Recovery teams are retrieving the drones now. Return to base for debriefing. As Maya climbed down from the platform, Lieutenant Mitchell approached her. That was the most incredible shooting I've ever seen, he said simply. Ma'am. The ma'am wasn't required. She was enlisted, he was an officer. But it was a sign of respect that meant more than he probably knew. Brennan was the last to approach. He stood for a long moment just looking at her. Then he held out his hand. I was wrong, Sergeant, about you, about this mission, about all of it. That was... I don't have words for what that was. Maya shook his hand. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. I was an ass, and we both know it. He paused. I've been in special operations for 20 years, and I've worked with some of the best shooters in the world. You just did something I didn't think was humanly possible. It's what I was trained for, Maya said simply. The debriefing lasted until past midnight. The drones had been even more sophisticated than the first one, equipped with equipment designed to identify weak points in the base's defenses. The analysis suggested that an attack had been planned for the next few days. Thanks to Staff Sergeant Chen, that attack won't have the intelligence support it needed, General Hastings said. We've bought ourselves time to improve our security and potentially identify who's behind this. After the debriefing, Maya finally made it back to her quarters. She was exhausted, running on fumes and adrenaline. But she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, satisfied. Not because she'd proven the doubters wrong, but because she'd done her job and done it well. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father, who somehow always knew when to check in. Heard through the grapevine you did something special today. Proud of you, sweetheart. Always have been. Maya smiled, tears pricking her eyes. She typed back, Thanks, Dad, love you. She was about to put the phone away when it rang. Unknown number. Sergeant Chen, she answered. This is Captain Rodriguez from Marine Corps Public Affairs. The woman's voice was professional but excited. General Hastings has put you in for a commendation, and there's been interest from higher up. We're talking about a potential profile piece, maybe even. No thank you, ma'am, Maya said firmly. But Sergeant, this is a great opportunity too. I appreciate it, but I'm not interested in publicity. I just want to do my job. She ended the call knowing it would probably cause problems later, but she meant it. She hadn't become a sniper for recognition or fame. She'd done it because it was what she was good at, what she could contribute. The real reward was the respect she'd earned from soldiers like Mitchell and, grudgingly, from Brennan. That mattered more than any medal or news story. Tomorrow she'd be back on duty, ready for whatever came next. But tonight she allowed herself a moment of peace. She'd proven to herself, if no one else, that she belonged here. 3 days later, Maya was cleaning her rifle in the armory when Colonel Martinez found her. Sergeant, we need to talk, privately. Something in his tone made her stomach tighten. She followed him to a small office and closed the door. What's wrong, sir? Martinez looked uncomfortable. The intelligence analysts have been going through the recovered drones. They found something unexpected. The drones were being controlled from inside the base. Maya's blood ran cold. Inside, you mean we have a traitor? We think so. The signal routing was sophisticated, but they traced it back to the base network. Someone with access to our systems was coordinating with an outside group. He paused. There's more. Based on the timing and the specific information the drones were gathering, the analysts think the insider is in the Special Operations Command structure. A SEAL, Maya asked. Or someone working closely with them, we don't know yet. But General Hastings wants this kept very quiet. Only a handful of people know about this, and you're one of them now. Why are you telling me? Because you're going to help catch them, Martinez said. Tonight, we're setting a trap. We're going to feed false information through the command network about a supposed weakness in our security. If our traitor takes the bait, they'll send another drone to verify the information, and you're going to be waiting. Maya nodded slowly. What's the false information? We're claiming there's a 2-hour window tonight where one sector of the perimeter will have reduced coverage due to equipment maintenance. If the traitor is who we think it might be, they'll jump at the chance to confirm it. And if they do send a drone, you take it down just like before. But this time, we'll be ready to trace the control signal in real time and pinpoint exactly where it's coming from. That evening, Maya was back on the observation platform. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. Commander Brennan and his team were positioned around the base, but they didn't know about the trap. Only a handful of people did: Martinez, General Hastings, the intelligence analysts, and now Maya. Torres sat beside her, also in the dark about the true nature of the mission. As far as he knew, they were just on regular drone watch. Think they'll come back? Torres asked. I think someone wants to know if the intel is good, Maya said carefully. At 2300 hours, radar picked up a contact. A single drone approaching from the southwest, a new direction. Here we go, Maya murmured. She tracked the drone through her scope. It was moving more cautiously than the others, staying at extreme range, clearly testing the defenses. Through her earpiece, she could hear the intelligence analysts working in real time. We've got the signal. It's definitely coming from inside the base. Triangulating now. The drone moved closer, gaining confidence. Maya kept it in her sights but didn't fire. Not yet. They needed more time to pinpoint the source. 300 yards, Torres said. You want to take the shot? Not yet, Maya said. Let it get closer. Closer? Maya, it's going to be right on top of us. Trust me. The drone came closer, 200 yards, 150. Maya could see it clearly now, its camera lens glinting in the starlight. She imagined whoever was controlling it, sitting somewhere on this base, thinking they were safe, untouchable. Signal source identified, came the voice in her earpiece. Building 7, second floor, northwest corner, sending security now. Take the shot, Martinez ordered. Maya fired, the drone disintegrated. Got it, she said into her radio. What's happening? Security is entering Building 7 now. Stand by. The wait was agonizing. 5 minutes, 10. Then Martinez's voice came back shaken. We have him, Sergeant, it was Chief Petty Officer Grant Russo, one of Brennan's senior operators. Maya felt like she'd been punched. Russo. She'd seen him around the base, a quiet man in his 40s with 20 years of service, a decorated SEAL who'd served in Iraq and Afghanistan. Why, she asked. Money, looks like. We found evidence of payments from a foreign account. He was passing intelligence to what appears to be a group with ties to Chinese military intelligence. Torres, hearing this through his own radio, looked stunned. One of the SEALs, but they're supposed to be. Yeah, Maya said softly, they're supposed to be. An hour later, Maya stood in General Hastings's office with Martinez and Commander Brennan. Brennan looked like he'd aged 10 years. One of his own men, someone he'd trusted with his life, had betrayed them all. I don't understand, Brennan said quietly. He was one of the best men I've ever served with, solid, reliable. How did I miss this? He was very careful, General Hastings said. He'd been planning this for over a year. The money troubles, the gambling debts. He hid it all very well. Brennan looked at Maya. If you hadn't been here, if you hadn't shot down those drones, we never would have known. He would have kept feeding them information, and eventually people would have died. Sergeant Chen's actions likely prevented a major attack on this base and saved dozens, if not hundreds, of lives, General Hastings said. She's being put in for the Navy Cross. I don't need a medal, ma'am, Maya said. You're getting one anyway, the general replied firmly. What you did required exceptional skill and courage. The nation owes you a debt. After the meeting, Brennan walked Maya out. They stood in the cool desert night, the stars brilliant overhead. I owe you an apology, Brennan said. A real one, not just for doubting your ability. I judged you before I knew you. I saw what I expected to see instead of what was right in front of me. A lot of people do that, Maya said without bitterness. Doesn't make it right, he paused. I've been thinking about why I reacted the way I did, and I think I was scared. Scared that if someone like you could do things I couldn't do, what did that say about me? About my team, about everything I'd built my identity on. Maya looked at him with new understanding. It doesn't say anything except that we all have different strengths. You're a great SEAL, Commander. Your record speaks for itself. I could never do what you do, lead men in combat, make the calls you have to make. We're just good at different things. That's generous of you, especially after how I treated you. We're on the same team, Maya said simply. That's what matters. 2 weeks later, Maya stood in front of her unit back at Camp Pendleton, the Navy Cross gleaming on her uniform. Her parents had flown in from Oregon, her father beaming with pride, her mother crying happy tears. Her brother was there too, and Tors, and surprisingly, Commander Brennan and several of his SEALs. The ceremony was formal but moving. As the general pinned the medal to her chest, Maya thought about the journey that had brought her here. All the people who doubted her, all the obstacles she'd overcome, all the moments when she could have quit but didn't. She thought about her father's hardware store, about measuring twice and cutting once, about her mother's advice to be undeniable, about Tor's loyalty and even Brennan's hard-learned respect. Later at the reception, Lieutenant Mitchell approached her. My wife wants to meet you, he said. She's been following your story. She's a teacher and she wants to tell her students about you. Maya met his wife, a kind-faced woman who shook her hand firmly. You have no idea how much this means, she said. My daughter is 10 and she loves shooting sports, but some of the boys tell her girls can't be as good. Now I can show her that's not true. That, Maya thought, was worth more than any medal. As the evening wound down, Brennan pulled her aside one last time. I heard the Marine Corps is starting a new training program for counter-drone operations. They want you to help develop it. I haven't heard anything official yet, Maya said. You will, and when you do, I hope you'll consider it. What you figured out, how to engage these threats, that's going to save lives, a lot of lives. Maya smiled. I'll think about it. She left the reception and walked out into the California evening. The base was quiet, the ocean visible in the distance. She'd come a long way from that small town in Oregon, from the girl in the hardware store learning about precision and patience. She'd faced men who doubted her, overcome challenges that seemed impossible, and earned respect the hardest way there was, by being undeniably good at what she did. But more than that, she'd stayed true to herself. She hadn't become bitter or angry. She hadn't let the doubters change her or make her less than she was. She'd simply done her job, day after day, shot after shot, until the truth was impossible to ignore. Her phone buzzed, a text from her father. The measure twice, cut once, girl did pretty good today. Maya laughed and typed back, learn from the best, Dad. As she walked back to her barracks, she thought about what came next. More missions, probably. More people who would doubt her at first. More chances to prove that skill had no gender, that courage came in all sizes, and that the quiet woman in the shadows might just be the most dangerous person in the room. She was ready for it. She'd always been ready.